Climbing Vines, Momentum 2021, The Power of Penn Women. Maku Black Cultural Center and the Penn Women's Center is so excited to host you today to hear about a remarkable project that you all have been leading and to share it with alumni who may not have been aware of it. So I would like to introduce our guest today. Arielle Winfield, also College of 17, is the founder and CEO of Sessions, Climbing Vines podcast host. And she is a dynamic entrepreneur with a Wall Street background and private wealth management marketing. After graduating from the University of Pennsylvania with a BA in cognitive neuroscience and a minor in consumer psychology, she became the first marketing analyst at Morgan Stanley. Kudos. She spent 2 years launching her corporate career there. After leaving Wall Street to pursue her entrepreneurial spirit, Arielle began consulting in marketing, communications, and digital transformation. In addition, she founded her tech startup, Sessions, which helps creatives monetize their work more easily and consistently through subscription and revenue sharing opportunities. She's a content creator and is motivated by helping people achieve their own version of freedom through financial independence, ownership, and living a lifestyle they love. Arielle hosted the Climbing Vines podcast in order to help further the mission of supporting and preserving the rich history and experiences of Black women at Penn and beyond. So Janae, if I could invite you, could you just tell us all why you launched Climbing Vines?
Yes, thank you for that introduction. One edit, I'm the class of 2012, so shout out to all 2012. That's okay. 2017 is great too, but 2012. And, thank you for having us. Thank you so much, everybody who's joining us today. I'm always excited to share as much as I can about Climbing Vines and hopefully get more people involved in what we're doing with it. But to answer your question, Dana, in terms of how Climbing Vines came to be, it really was an extension of Sister Sister. So Sister Sister is a discussion group that is focused on the Black women experience. And it was something that had existed prior to me getting to Penn in 2008, but had gone away. And so when we got to campus, there was the question for me. There was a counterpart to that for Black undergraduate men on campus. And so when we got there, we're like, oh, well, we used to have this for Black women. Like, how do we bring this back? And so really led by Ruthie Hubbard, who was another 2012 graduate, we were able to bring it back and have this discussion group. And we found it to be so impactful for the Black undergraduate women who participated. It was a safe space for us to share, to have discussions about various topics that were impacting us. And it just was a supportive community. And it's important. It was important for us as we were going through our experiences at Penn, and really unique experiences that we all felt like we could relate to as Black women. And so when I graduated in 2012, I wanted to provide an extension of that safe space in written form. For people to continue to share their stories, allowing for a historical record of our time on this campus as Black women, but also to provide a guiding light for incoming Black women that are coming to campus. For better or for worse, I think there are a number of sister cycles, which is the name of the first story that we have that we go through over the years. And I want them to know that there is a network and a support system that's there, that's been through it, and can provide some kind of guidance and light for them as they are moving through their undergraduate years. So that's really where the project came from. It started as the book and sharing our stories in written form. And then we also decided to try it in an audio format through podcasting.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So the podcast is now just part of American culture, right? It is one of the main ways that we distribute and get out our narratives and our stories. Arielle, in doing the podcast, were there any themes about the experiences of Black women at or after Penn that resonated with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of it resonated with me, actually. I feel like being a Black woman in spaces that are dominated by people that don't necessarily look like you can really cause us to have a lot of similar experiences, whether we talk about it with each other or realize it in the moment or not. And the first thing that really came to my mind when you asked me that question was actually the first episode that we talked about on the podcast, where we were discussing mental health as a woman of color at Penn. And I know that I personally dealt with my own mental health struggles on campus, and a lot of other students did as well, but especially other Black women on campus. And having the opportunity to really discuss it on the podcast was something that I was really excited about, because talking about mental health is not something that is really done as often in public forums as it should be done, especially when it relates to Black women. So this was a really important thing for me to do, and that resonated with me the most, I would have to say.
Oh, Ariel, can I ask you, your class of 2017, and how could I forget like my Penn 12 and you being part of that remarkable cohort? What makes the experience of Black women something that both of you feel the need to focus on? And I'd love both of you just sort of to answer, as you choose.
For sure. Yeah. Well, for me as a Black woman, I will always care about our experiences, because to me, it's a reflection of my own experience. And so often I feel like our perspectives and our experiences, our visions, our goals for our life are not the ones that are being shared, most often at least. And representation is really important to me, especially for young people, because when you can look around and see someone that looks like you, that's sharing their experiences, sharing their accomplishments, sharing the hard times in their life or the things that they've struggled with or learned, you have the opportunity to look at them and be like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm not alone. Or I see someone that's doing something that I might not necessarily have envisioned, but it expands your perspective and things like that. So I just will always be down for sharing Black women's experiences and stories. And that's why this project specifically really was important to me to be a part of.
One of the things we briefly talked about in my group was the compulsion to be solution oriented and to fix things, and to be a resource and to be a constant help. And although I do consider it a challenge and a heaviness, I cannot assign this wisdom to the correct philosopher or teacher or meme. It could be anybody from Snoop Dogg to TD Jakes. I don't know. My feed is my feed. It's very complicated. But I will say that what frustrates you is your assignment. And I think those things that we are called to fix are our assignments. And so the challenge in Black womanhood is looking at something and going, am I going to fix that? I might just let that rock, let that frustrate somebody else and develop someone else. But when you're truly frustrated, it might be for you. And discerning that, I think is a choice challenge. Does anyone else want to share?
Something really quickly from our group. One thing that we kind of talked about that was a little frustrating as a Black woman is that sometimes we can't always be our full selves in whatever situation it is, whether it's a job interview or anything else really. And we don't always have the luxury of being able to code switch and be comfortable in all of who we are and show all sides of who we are. We have to kind of just choose one lane or one path for the moment. And I don't know, it's frustrating because it kind of does us a disservice to not be able to express all sides of ourselves. But that's something that can be kind of frustrating or challenging.
Tell you all something that brought me joy. And that has been following Ariel. I was introduced to Ariel through the podcast. And I, curious, I'm a Googler. So I went and found all the social accounts and Style Maven, right? And so Climbing Vines has actually introduced me to so many Penn women because of the people who participate just in the project. So Ariel, what brings you joy about Climbing Vines as the podcast host?
Yeah, I definitely want to ditto everything that Janae said. And I feel like it's such a privilege and an honor that Janae asked me to be the host. I was like, yes, absolutely, I want to do this. Um, and, being in spaces like this, where we can gather together as a bunch of beautiful women to talk about our experiences and our joys and our pain and all of that, and just support each other. Like, it just feels like such a privilege truly to be able to be in a space like this, but also to be a part of the podcast and a part of Climbing Vines and its history. Because I think preserving the history of Black women, especially in a space like Penn, where it's predominantly white, and predominantly does not look like us, is so important, because it would just be such a tragedy to lose all of our experiences over the course of time. So I really do hope that Climbing Vines becomes a part of, Penn's official history books, because it is well deserved, absolutely. So yeah, I'm just so happy to be a part of this, truly.
I wasn't exactly sure what to expect from this conversation and the breakout sessions, but I know this has been the best way to end the week, and spend a Friday evening. I think it's safe to say that we all had such powerful conversations, and I know I learned a lot and felt inspired by the conversations. And thank you, Janae, Ariel, for coming, joining us, talking about Climbing Vines. I know participating, there it is, Dana has it up. Go to the website. Dana put the link in the chat. I know participating has been, one of the highlights of my time at Penn so far, and being involved even a little bit in the project. So I really appreciate this opportunity to have you with us and join us at this conference. If you have anyone here has any social media handles. It was funny when Dana was talking about Ariel, like I was quickly in real time pulling up her Instagram account, because I was like, oh, now I kind of have to see, like, right now. It's actually pretty amazing. So I suggest you all look it up too. But we would love to continue this conversation and to keep following each other and supporting each other.